Hello out there, comic nerds, and welcome back to a new video. As some of you might have noticed, I've actually recently changed the channel title to Sequentials Deluxe, and that is because despite my best efforts, I haven't exactly figured out how to talk about film. And even though it's a great passion of mine, with the level of commitment I have to the channel right now, which is admittedly medium at best, I just haven't been able to do it in a way that I feel comfortable with. So instead of trying to split my energy between film and comics, I've decided I'm just going to focus on comic books for this channel, and specifically deluxe editions of comic books. As some of you probably know if you've been a fan of the channel for a while, I have both purged and reacquired a number of titles over the years. And in my reacquiring, I feel as though I've had a more defined vision of what I want to collect. I don't do a lot of blind buying. So combining that with the fact that some of my favorite things to do as a content creator is to do collection tours, I've decided I'm going to start a series of videos called Why You Should Buy. It's basically going to be a long form collection tour, more or less, where each video I pick a specific thing off of my shelf, give you my thoughts on it, price points, why I specifically acquired this item, and why you may want to acquire it as well. I am not promising I will have read all of these. In fact, a lot of times I won't have. So it's basically a mix of a light review and a light collection video where I go through and tell you why I bought these things and why you might be interested in them as well. I've also recently started acquiring manga for the first time, I'd say, to a large extent. So that's going to be mixed in with my normal kind of Western style comic books. And today, actually, we're going to kick off this series by talking about Akira, specifically the Akira box set that Kodansha Comics put out relatively recently, collecting the entire celebrated classic run. And here's why I think you should check out the Akira Deluxe Box Set. Akira as a manga series ran from the early to late 80s and may actually be better known as an anime, also directed by Katsuhiro Otomo, which I believe came out in 1988. At the time, Akira was pretty groundbreaking, especially the film, which became one of the very first anime movies to break in the US, or at least in the Western world, in a big way. And it was also a huge manga series both in Japan and abroad, as one of the first manga series to be translated into English and actually published by Epic Comics, which was a Marvel imprint at the time. It was not reversed right to left, it was still left to right, and it was also colored, so it was not perhaps the most pure form of this manga, but nonetheless, it was something that most people were not that familiar with. Japanimation, as it was might have been called back then, or anime, was something that was basically circulated at like conventions and different stuff like that on VHS tapes. And Akira is one of the first movies that kind of made it a serious endeavor for adults to be into manga and anime, especially in a Western audience. That had been going around for a while with Tezuka and other mangakas, which is the term for a manga creator, in Japan for years and years. But this was a big one for introducing the Western audiences to manga. As a basic pitch, it's kind of a post-apocalyptic, not necessarily Blade Runner-esque, kind of more rundown and perhaps less hard sci-fi, but a post-apocalyptic tale following a gang of miscreants and ruffians as they intersect with government conspiracies, military plans and coups, science gone awry, and basically the specter of Akira, this superhuman being that is lying over the whole of Neo-Tokyo. It follows a number of these kind of boys through their young lives. The anime is pretty condensed, the manga spreads out a little bit more, and it follows them as they get wrapped up in this entire conspiracy and whole thing, develop different powers, sort of take on different roles in the revolution and whatnot. It's a very, very celebrated piece of work, and I think deservingly, just because of the both writing and illustration, they're both incredibly beautiful. But let's take a look specifically at this deluxe edition of Akira. Now, I've previously made a video called Akira Collecting the Many Confusing Ways, or something along those lines, because it is a difficult series for many years, or at least it was, to collect in the West. Like I said, originally it was published in individual issues by Epic Comics. I think there were something like 38 of those, something around there. And then eventually that was collected into hardcovers, which were put out by Graffiti Designs in limited editions. And then eventually the rights went to Kodansha that put out sort of these soft paperback kind of like phone book style, like large books. And then finally we have here the 35th anniversary set, which actually came out in 2017, but I acquired rather recently. And this is a box set which contains all 6 of the Akira books, the same that Kodansha has put out previously as paperbacks, but in really nice deluxe hardcover format, as well as the Akira Club art book, which is a difficult book to get before this printing at least. And then also a nice deluxe box to wrap it all up, as well as a bonus little patch for you to iron onto your jackets if you happen to be in a biker gang as well. Now, it might be fair to ask, why is this a big deal if the content has already been out there for years in these paperback books, and they're, I think, basically the same size as these hardcovers? One, they are hardcovers, which is a nice, incentive for collectors if that's something you're into. But two, this is one of the first times, or possibly the first time ever, where the manga is flipped, unflipped that is, and it still reads right to left as it did in the original Japanese manga. And it also has the Japanese sound effects restored to the pages, where sometimes when they were printed in places like Epic Comics, they might have been changed into like the pows and Shazam and booms that we know from Western style comics. This printing actually keeps the Japanese like phonetic kind of symbols, which give you an idea of what the sound effects are while you're reading the pages. So if you're a very traditionalist in the way you like to read your different mangas, this is probably the most quote-unquote traditional or faithful representation of what the original black and white, uncolored, right to left, and Japanese sound effect manga would have been back in the day. The box itself looks pretty swanky and it's a step above most kind of deluxe edition or slipcase box sets, which are literally just a thin slipcase, something like the Battle Angel Alita box set, which I'll cover eventually. This one actually has like a double gatefold with a lot of really nice art kind of on the inside and outside. The problem with this was when the original production run was going on, people were getting a lot of damaged boxes from the shipping. There would be problems with the actual box itself. Kodansha, I think, did a really good job of replacing those boxes and giving you kind of a nice unbroken box, because Amazon shipping is notoriously bad for books especially. So I don't think it's really a worry that much, but if you have a box set like this, you want it to look nice. I mean, you're paying a lot of money for it. So I do think it is a high quality. I think it is high quality enough to recommend buying as a box set instead of getting the original kind of Akira trades. Even if the price is fairly high, I believe the list price for this is $199. Right now, I'm looking at it on Amazon for $151. I purchased it previously for around $120, and I was pretty happy with that price. So if you check eBay or look for a sort of secondhand, either that or new listings from third-party sellers, it's possible to have this book, in your collection for under $130. I don't know how long the set will be in print. It is a 35th anniversary, and I believe it was at some point meant to be a limited thing, although this particular purchase of it was from a reprint, and it says on the Amazon page that this is reprinted and available again for a limited time. So if you would like to pick up this box set, I feel like I would recommend getting it sooner than later before it becomes, $200 plus to get from most online sellers. But I think that this is a fantastic box for anybody who likes sci-fi, comics, very good black and white art, and manga in general. It is an older manga. It's not along the lines of sort of the shonen stuff that many people would have known from reading Naruto, One Piece, Fullmetal Alchemist, or any of those kind of extremely popular mangas. It is an older school manga, and it is a more of a contained story than it is a hundreds of chapters long story like One Piece. But if you're interested in the history of manga, if you're interested in reading one of the most influential works from the 80s, which was a really classic time for, comics in both Eastern and Western parts of the world, I would recommend the Akira box set, especially if you can source it for under $130. I think it's a high quality piece, and I think you'll be very happy with it in your collection. It gets my highest 2 thumbs up stamp of approval. That's why I bought the Akira box set, and I think you should too. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. Tell me what other things you'd like to see me cover in this kind of format, and I'll be back soon, hopefully, with more why you should buy videos, going through different pieces of my collection and why I think they're worth a purchase. Thanks, guys. See you around.